Hey everybody, welcome to yet another replay in a fast, fragile tier 9 medium. This is Mesadoram playing in his AMX 30 prototype. He's ended up on Westfield and got the shitty spawn down in the valley. Since the east side of this map is basically useless, there's no reason to go there unless you're in a light tank or if you know you're going to be able to get good shots from there, which typically you don't. And so, if you get this spawn, generally the first thing you have to do is climb up the hill. What this means is that a lot of the really strong positions on the south side of the town are unavailable to you, because by the time you get there, the enemy have already made them irrelevant. But it does give you the opportunity to run up the hillside here and use the forest for concealment while getting shots into the enemy light tanks and anything that comes into the village. It also provides the ability to flank some of the enemy tanks hanging around the south side of town, but only once you deal with the stuff on your left. Mesa's platoon mate, Noble Whale, is following up in the Type 61 and manages to find the enemy 1357. Everybody manages to get a shot into it before it cloaks up, and the MT-25 heads down to flash it out. That's one enemy scout down. The enemy 54E1 was actually following it into the town, which is generally a bad idea in 54E1. But the enemy 5916 gets an angle on Mesadoram and puts a shot into him. Now this is something you have to get familiar with in the AMX 30. It does not have very much armor. What armor it does have is pretty much confined to the gun mantlet. It's very similar to the Leopard in that you trade protection for mobility. However, the AMX 30, much like the STB1, has more or less invalidated the Leopard's place in Clan Wars and kind of pushes it out of its throne on pub matches as well. In pub matches. The Leopard used to have very high DPM combined with its good mobility and good gun. It does still have good gun handling, but it's been surpassed quite considerably for DPM by the Type 61, I'm pretty sure, the STB, and the, Object 430. So while the Leopard's still a fun tank to play, it's not the flavour of the week anymore. It's not as popular as it once was, and you don't see them all that often. The enemy T-34 makes a big mistake trying to push on Noble and Mesadoram. And so far it looks like things up on the hill have turned into more or less a stalemate. Mesa's team does have the numbers though, and is beginning to push, while a lot of the enemy tanks are hanging out down in the south of the map where they're doing pretty much nothing useful. Mesa decides to head up into the town and get some work done up there. And Noble follows. However, the enemy 54E1 happens to catch Noble Whale on the hop, and they then have to deal with him. If you don't deal with the T-54E1, you're going to have a bad day. The enemy 5916 is once again making a nuisance of himself. But the enemy team are starting to fold. Mesa teaches the enemy 1390 about shell penetration mechanics, specifically the fact that APCR will go through walls, and then gets a quick shot at the ISU, which is giving him a broadside. He finishes it off, although he takes quite a few hits from the 59-16 in the process. Nova Whale dispenses some swift justice. And now it's pretty much cleanup time. The enemy Roomba carelessly drives right past Mesa without paying any attention to him, and the enemy Type 61 is very low on health. Mesa takes a blind shot and actually does hit it, leaving only the 59-16 and the enemy 53-55 to deal with. So far from what I've seen, the AMX 30 seems like a good flexible medium tank. Obviously it's not one that can take hits, but the combination of relatively small size, great mobility, a fantastic gun, and a high DPM makes it pretty good at pulling a game out of the mud or helping an already good team along to victory. If you're interested in picking up an AMX 30, it comes off the AMX 1390, so that's the tank you want to play to get one of these. The AMX 30 prototype seems pretty decent. The 30B is, by pretty much all accounts, fantastic, but you do need to be mindful that it is a very, very lightly armoured tank. You will not be bouncing very many shots in it, and if you do, it'll usually be because the enemy are bad. If you happen to have an AMX Chasseur de Char and you like the playstyle of that tank, you'll probably enjoy this one. It's actually probably going to be a little easier to play because it's not quite such a big target, but it's a lot of the same. Very high mobility, good gun depression, fantastic gun. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and as ever, I'll see you on the next one.